Alright, in our last video, we started the design of putting together the final assembly of the bike. What you'll notice is that, well, this doesn't quite look like a bike yet. I got my frame that I built, got my two wheels. I did build a rear suspension in the last video. We're just going to keep going and trying to finish. We're going to connect this wheel today. And a lot of this is we're going to be talking about different principles of assembly. And when it comes to assembly in SolidWorks, there's a number of different ways that you can assemble things. You got to think about this like you were actually building a component. If you're going to actually build a component, in order to mount two things together, you would line up the bolt holes. And if the bolt holes line up, then you just let a bolt in. You would position it at a certain place and then clamp it on. You would, maybe line things up and sandwich it between two other features, or slide it into a slot. Or you got to think about how things are assembled. The bolt holes are probably the simplest way to assemble things. It's what most people are used to. If you cut two holes in a component, you can align them very simply. I did that a lot in the last video. But in this video, well, and I also did a few other assembly techniques in the last video, like positioning a plate at a certain location. I positioned it, I think, 4 inches in from the end. But when it comes to assembly as a whole, you always have to be thinking about how it is that parts connect. One of the things that I tell people very often in SolidWorks, and just in design in general, is it's not hard to design a bar. Like, I need something that goes from here to here. That's a bar. It can be square, it can be round, it can be whatever's available. That's not hard. The hard part comes in, how do I connect it? Connections are one of the most challenging parts of any design. And this is a freshman level class. I'm not expecting you to be the world's greatest at connecting things yet. That comes next year. No, I'm kidding. But in reality, connecting things is always going to be hard. How do you put two things together? Glue is an easy way to do stuff, but quite frankly, glue doesn't serve every purpose. Epoxy can in a lot of purposes. You can actually get epoxy to work. But even then, how do you ensure that the connection is accurate? How do you ensure that it's in the right position? So that's a lot of the issue that you're going to have with connections is, how do you know it's in the right place? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my rear suspension in here, and I have a couple of different options for how I can include that rear suspension. Now, you'll notice last time we actually made all of these parts, but we also made this assembly file, which is the rear assembly file. Now, I'm in an assembly, but I can insert an assembly. This is now referred to as a sub-assembly, just by me putting it in here. And you'll notice here's the center axle, and this is the axle that is used to rotate about, and this was my connection point that was going to go onto the frame itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mount that here, go ahead and mount this piece here, and go through that process. So pretty simple, not terribly challenging. You'll notice again that I do not have my temporary axes shown, so I will not be able to align my axes very well. So I go up to View, Hide Show, and then go to Temporary Axes. And this just allows me to see the axes so that I can get a better connection here. Select an axis here, and then hit Control, pan upward, zoom in by scrolling the mouse wheel, click this axis. You'll notice it just jumps right down in there. And that's where I want it to be, so I hit OK. Now the next piece is I want the inside face of this piece to be in contact with the outside face of this piece. Okay, but you'll also notice that it didn't really do anything. The only option I have is lock, and that didn't quite work. These circles are, I believe, slightly different diameters, and as a result, just connecting the diameters is going to be impossible. Well, just connecting the faces. So here we do kind of have to do some tricks to connect this piece to this piece. You'll notice I don't have a display of my sweep line, which my sweep line was used to create this. This doesn't have any temporary axes. I can go in here and I can view, show planes and lines and routing points and axes and everything, and quite frankly, curves. It's always going to be a challenge for me to try to get that point to match to that sweep that I created, because I don't have any flat points, and trying to mount a round object to another round object, turns out that's actually kind of hard, which is where the temporary axes are kind of helpful. So what do we do? Well, there's a number of options that we can do and follow here. I mean, we have this temporary axis here, but we don't really have a line to connect to. So we could go back into the drawing and draw an axis that goes from here to here so that we can mount this axis to that one and just force them to be in line. That would be one option. Another option is we could create some planes and try to mount maybe this front plane surface to it. That would be another option. Third option would be we could, I don't know, we could actually drill a bolt hole in here, just a single bolt hole that would hold it on, and then drill another bolt hole in here, and mount it that way. And quite frankly, that's probably my favorite. Holes are very easy to align, and I like the idea of creating holes. So I'm going to go ahead, and all I need to do is really open up that bracket. I don't need to open the whole assembly because that sub-assembly will also update when I fix it. So if we go to my mounting bracket, open it up, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding a hole so that I can connect that piece to my frame. I'll also have to drill a hole in the frame. We'll get to that when we get to it. So here I have this. I'm going to go ahead and do a sketch, and when I do a sketch, I would draw it on this plane, but I don't want that plane to go away. So I will, well, no, it doesn't make the plane go away. I'll go ahead and draw it on this plane. I'm just going to draw a circle in the very center. Let's say we're going to use a 3/8 inch bolt. So define this as, oh, I almost got 3/8, 0.375, hit enter. You'll notice if I zoom in, it's fully defined. So I then exit sketch. And then I'm going to do an extruded cut through both. And hit OK. Oh, cannot rebuild, cannot locate end of feature. Can't find anything to cut. So there we go. I'll just do a through all. I don't have it. There's another side. There's no other thing to cut back there. And there's my bolt hole. It's pretty simple. This is why I say bolt holes are the easiest. I'm not going to require you to put a list of bolts in here. In a full design, you would actually have to model like a tube or something and call it a bolt, put it in, so that you can get accurate part counts. I don't care about accurate part counts right now. This is not anything that matters to me. I'm going to go ahead and open the frame. So pop open the frame. I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to select a place. Thank you, SolidWorks. To drill a hole. Now that's not nearly as simple. I need it to be something that is parallel to this face, quite frankly, but I don't have a parallel to this face to go from. I mean, I've got this sketch, I got that line that I can draw from, and maybe I could select, I don't know, this line. Nah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this sketch, edit this sketch, and I'm just going to draw a line that goes from this point. Can't even select that point. Okay, well, maybe I'm not going to add a line from that point. Never mind. Oh, I'm in the wrong sketch. That's why. That makes sense. This is the sketch I want to be in. Silly Kale. Tricks are for kids. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create I'm trying to think what I'm going to do. I'm going to offset a line. And then I'm going to use that line to create a plane. So I will go in and where's offset? There it is. I want to offset. I'll set about 2 inches. Pick this line. Oh no, do it the other way. And hit yes. Now you'll notice it actually ends up selecting everything. It didn't just pick my one line. It picked the entire curve. Well, I don't want the whole curve. I just want that one line. Well, if I do this, I think I should be able to just delete all the rest of these. I don't need them. And then, quite frankly, this one I want it to be for construction because it's not. It's only a line that I'm going to use to try to generate a plane. It's not even letting me do that. Okay. Well, this is why it makes a great learning moment. Let's see if I can insert an axis in here. Try grabbing a cylindrical face and see if I can create an axis from that. Oh, it's not cylindrical enough, so SolidWorks says it's not a real cylinder. Nice. Okay. Well, drastic times call for drastic measures here. I could try to create a face that's roughly perpendicular to that. Really want to select this line right there. I think what I might do is go back in and that beautiful line I just created, it's not helpful. SolidWorks is going to freak out for a second. I think I can copy this. I can suppress it, I can edit it. Let's see if I can't just control copy, paste. Okay, so I get the exact same drawing if you just copy and paste it. And now I'm going to see in this one, thank you SolidWorks, you're a real hero. I'll go ahead and edit this sketch, and everything is it doesn't have this point connected to the origin. So if I just go in and I add relation between this line and the origin, select other, point at origin, delete the line. If I just make them coincident, it will make everything fully defined. Okay, now I need to try to use this line right here to create a plane. So we'll go ahead and exit a sketch. Notice I can still see some pieces of this line. This line now shows up. What I can do is I can click on it, hit reference geometry, and click plane. Okay, and what it will do immediately is say, okay, coincident, all right, that doesn't fully define it. What I'm going to do for my second reference is I'm going to actually select a perpendicular plane. So here I want my I want my front plane to be perpendicular, and the moment it says perpendicular, it says fully defined. So now I have a plane that goes in the direction of this object, is based on this sketch. Okay, and now I finally have something that I can draw on. So I'll go ahead and do a sketch, click the plane, and I'll go in here and I will draw a circle. I'm going to make normal to the plane. Going to switch directions because I don't like that one. There we go. And then I'm just going to make some hole, some distance. Right now I have it at the origin. I don't actually want it at the origin. Probably going to look at where the circle is going, but I do want it to be like horizontal to the origin. So go ahead and smart dimension. We want this to be 0.375 inches. You'll notice it's not fully defined because while it is horizontal with the origin, we haven't picked where it's going to be on this bar yet. So right now I'm drawing it at the very bottom, which is not exactly where I would hope to place this object. I don't have any real indicator vertically on this of where to be. So I could just draw a random dimension and be like, well, wherever that origin, wherever SolidWorks placed it, I'm just going to move it up here some distance. I mean, that works, but that's not best practice. I want it to be about right here. Okay, which means I'm going to need some space away from this edge right there in order to place it. It'll probably go directly under that edge somewhere. So I'm a fan of having numbers that make sense. More than likely this hole would be drilled in the pipe before the pipe is bent, which unfortunately means that there's no reason or rhyme to, okay, it's this distance in from this end. It's not a very good measurement. So fortunately, there's no real rhyme to how we're about to do this. I'm going to go ahead and go back to features, create another plane, and this time I want my plane to be based off of this line, and I want it to be, oh nope, I don't want it to be based on that line. I want it to be based off of the top plane, and I want it to be a distance of 4 inches down, and then Yeah, something like that. So 4 inches below this bar will be my connection point. That sounds about right. I'll go ahead and hit yes. And now you'll notice that I have 2 planes. Well, this plane isn't going to help me draw this, but I can create an axis. And it can be the intersection of 2 planes, forms that axis. If I hit yes, then this axis is formed. Now, as I'm drawing in this sketch, oops, an exit sketch. Every time you draw a sketch, it hides everything that shows up beneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move these up above the sketch. Oh. Fine, I'm going to move this sketch down below. There we go. Come on, SolidWorks. Okay, and now I can select this axis because this axis is in my plane. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I want center point of this. I'll go ahead and add relation. I want it to be on this axis. Make them coincident, and now that hole is fully defined. I'll hit exit sketch, and now I have a very peculiarly drawn, but relevant now, circle. So it took me a little bit to get there, but now we do an extruded cut, and I'm going to pick this circle, and I'm going to have it go mid-plane, and I want it to cut 4 inches. Okay, it'll go a little bit outside of this, but that's fine. I do want to make sure that it doesn't go and cut through the frame up here, because I don't want to have a weird bolt hole up there. But yeah, looks good to me, so I'll go ahead and accept. I want to keep all of my bodies. Oh. Oops, for some reason when it made that cut, it decided to only keep what was cut. Let me try up to surface. No, I'm going to do mid-plane. I'll try 4 inches. And then there we go. I don't know what I did last time that messed that up. Now I've got a hole in here. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. Go ahead and jump back into my model. I did cut a hole in this piece here, and I cut a hole in here. So I'm going to just connect those holes. I still have temporary axes selected, so if I go into mate, nope. Preview component, I don't want a preview component. If I go into mate, it brings up my mate menu. Good day, mate. It's terrible. Go up here, and I will select the temporary axis for this hole here. And all that's going to do is it's going to align them. So I will hit yes, okay, and that's awesome. Now I have this hole where this is somewhat in line with this. That's great. That's terrible. Oh boy. Now I do have this line that I just drew, and that line is the center line for that hole, so now I can mate those together. And you'll notice now there's a little bit of an intersection there. It's not enough for me to care about, but now I can actually have my components together. Now the last piece is I'm going to have to mount a spring that goes from here. Nice spring. It's going to have to go from here to the bottom side down here. I won't do that in this drawing. That'll be another day, but I got my rear suspension mounted to my frame. The next piece of it is I'm actually going to build the frame out, create a connection for the front wheel, and then I'm going to work on all the intricate components, the gearing and everything. So making progress. I'm in a good place as far as the video goes, but still a lot more to do. Woo! Okay, that's a problem. I did forget to mate. I mated the the axes together, but I didn't mate the face here. So, whoops. I'm gonna mate the outside of that face in with the inside face of this coupling. Sticks in there all nice. And now I should be able to, yep. Now I do not know why this is not allowing me to rotate this downward. It's supposed to be able to rotate. Everything I've done so far has aligned it so that it could rotate. I'll have to figure out what kind of mates are going on. I'll do that. I'll do that now, because I'm supposed to be able to rotate this component. If I can't rotate this component, I won't be able to rotate it into position so that it's appropriately aligned, so that I can mount the spring. So this, oh, I think the issue here is that my axle is fixed. Oh, that shouldn't be an issue. But I'm going to go ahead and change this to floating and see if that float. No, it shouldn't make it an issue. For some reason, it is making it an issue. I can't even rotate the wheel back here. Oh wait, yeah I can. Yeah! But I should be able to rotate this strut. And the strut not being able to rotate, that is a problem. So, where in here did I accidentally prevent this thing from moving? I'm going to go back into my other assembly. A rear assembly, and I'm just going to see in my rear assembly, do I have the ability to rotate? Yes. Do I have the ability to rotate that bracket? Okay. And I do. The bracket rotates independently of the system. So that's not really my problem. I must have done something in the actual bike assembly oh, it allowed me to rotate that. It's interesting. suppose I should probably try to rotate this into a nice position where I want it. SolidWorks is going to play that game. There we go. A little bit closer to what I want. Apparently you can't adjust positions of assemblies inside of assemblies. I didn't know that. But I still need to mount that spring here to here. Now you'll notice this distance is pretty huge. It's a little bit bigger than my spring. So when I go to insert components and I go pick my spring, my spring's a lot smaller. I'm either going to need to make that spring a lot bigger, or I'm going to need to actually create a component to connect it. Okay. I'm just probably going to just make the spring huge. Because you know what, I don't have to design this well. So that is what I will do. I'm going to try to make this plate and this line here be parallel. Let's see if it'll make it happen. Doesn't appear to be making that happen. Yep. Was not able to do it because I can't, it's not letting me rotate this rear assembly in this drawing. I'd have to go into the other assembly and do it. I will deal with that in the next video though. For now, I've got this mounted. I just need the spring to connect it to the seat, and then we are golden. So I will see you in the next video. What we might need to do in the next video is we may actually just need to go ahead and remove this bracket from this assembly. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'll do that in this video. We got a few more minutes. So, going back in here. Now this is going to make SolidWorks freak out. Because SolidWorks does not like does not like this. It's going to hate what I'm doing. Got my mounting bracket. Hit delete. Delete all mates. Just makes it the rear assembly now. File, save, and then when I go back in here, it's gonna go, whoa, what the heck did you just do? And there goes my mounting assembly, as well as all of the mates that were associated with it. Now I can move this piece. So I'll go ahead and file, open, nope, not open, sorry, insert components. Mounting bracket, go ahead and put that right there. And then the process is very much the same. Because I can't really move this assembly, I don't really want to. I'm just going to make sure that this hole is aligned with this hole. We'll update and move the bracket into position. And then I want this axis to be aligned with this center line. And then I want this axis to be aligned with this one. And lastly, I want this outer face to be meshed with this interface. And I hit yes. Okay, so I got all of my mates back. And now what you'll notice is that because this is all one rigid piece, because it's an assembly, now I can actually rotate it relative to the bike frame. So there we go. Now the next step is putting in the spring. I'll just make that spring friggin' huge. We'll go from there. So, okay, that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe for more wonderful content from me. I will see all of you soon.